Good morning, Standard 5. In today's session, I'll be teaching you a lesson, and the name of the lesson is The Blossom Tree. Now, this story is a fable. A fable is a story that gives us a moral. Now, here in the introduction, you'll have that few friends are discussing about a rich merchant, a rich businessman. His name is Patanpali. Now, this rich merchant is from Benares, and the merchant is actually going on a journey, on a long journey or a voyage. The merchant Patanpali decides that he would leave all his riches or all his wealth with one poor shepherd, and that shepherd's name is Jigme. Now, the friends who are discussing about the merchant and the shepherd are unable to understand the relationship between these two. They were wondering as to why such a rich merchant would give all his wealth to such a poor man. How could he trust such a poor man with all his wealth? They were unable to understand this. So these people get together and go to meet the Buddha in the city. When they go there and they relate it to the Buddha wants to give them or make them understand it better. So in relation to this, he tells them a wonderful story. Long ago, in this very city, there lived a great king called Brahmadatta. He loved looking after his royal garden. Of all the trees, his favorite one was the blossom tree. One day, the king saw an immense crack across the ceiling and on the wooden pillar. He thought to himself,
"The palace will collapse. I must send men out into the parks and gardens. We must repair the palace."
The carpenters and builders ran from park to park, trying to find a tree great enough to replace the pillar. But it was not long before one of the head carpenters returned to the king.
"Well, what is it?"
"Majesty, only the blossom tree is great enough to replace the pillar." King Brahmadatta did not know what to do. It was a tough decision for him.
"The blossom tree is the most beautiful living thing in the world. But my palace is going to collapse."
In the morning, he called the carpenters and said,
"Chop the tree down tomorrow."
"Yes, your majesty." In the garden, the mighty blossom tree looked around. All other trees joined her. "Blossom tree, you must save yourself. They are going to chop you down."
"I wish I knew what to do."
The tree wept all night. Then she heard a tiny voice in the darkness. "Blossom tree?"
"Who is it?"
"It is me, the kusha grass. I have an idea." Early next morning, two woodcutters reached the garden. As one of the men felt the tree for a place to chop, he shook his head in disbelief.
"Brother, the trunk seems rotten."
"What? It was fine yesterday. We must inform the king." So they hurried to the palace. "Your Majesty, the blossom tree has gone rotten. We cannot chop it down." The king was surprised as his mind raced. An idea flew into his mind.
"Send some men to the city to bring back 3 great trees. Bind them together to make one pillar."
Soon the pillar of the palace was replaced. But in the garden, all the other trees began asking questions to the blossom tree. "What happened to you? How did you go rotten in one night?" So the blossom tree explained how kusha grass had helped her.
Little chameleons, friends of Kusha grass, climbed upon my back. As their little bodies were soft, the men thought I was rotten, but I am as strong as ever. We should not choose our friends by their magnificence or their fame. Instead, we must choose our friends from their faithfulness and love.
Said the blossom tree one last time. This is how Buddha finished his story and brought out the relevance as to why the businessman Patanpali selected a humble shepherd as the most trustworthy person to keep his wealth when compared to the other businessmen. So all the other merchants bowed low and thanked Buddha for the message that he gave them.